Okay. Hi, Stephan. Nice of you to allow me to interview you in this way. I mean, it's a conversation. I don't want it to be an interview, really. So that's
Yeah.
okay. And we'll just
Thank
see
you
where
so
we
much,
go.
Barbara. Thank you so much, Barbara.
Okay.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Good.
Has always been nice to have an exchange with you.
Yeah, yeah. And we've got a long relationship now. I don't know how many years, but it feels good, very easy between us. So I enjoy that.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so maybe for the people who are looking at this, to give us a bit of background of how you got into constellation work in the first place, what you were doing before, and your connection with Bert.
Yeah, I'm happy to share that. Well, as probably most of you already know, my background is alternative medicine. Um, and for me, it was interesting because already when I studied traditional Chinese medicine, I was not aware that this was kind of the first approach to learn in systemic thinking in a way, because the traditional Chinese medicine really is thinking in systems. And I had quite a full practice of homeopathy when I met Bert, and I could say, I mean, I could make a longer story short, but I kind of by coincidence ended up in a workshop with him. I mean, I knew him already before personally, as he was a client in the homeopathic practice of my father-in-law. So we already had some personal contact. But when I asked him actually what he is doing, and he said family therapy, I got a little bit, oh my God, this is boring, to be honest. But then there was a coincidence. I mean, I inscribed for a congress because there was a George Vitulkas, a famous homeopath from Greece. And the theme was medicine and religion. And Bert also was invited. And yeah, so I decided to go to that Congress. I think it was 1 week long that time in 1993. And what happened there, the talk George Vitulkas held, for me was not so interesting. There has not been so much new things. And the talk of Bert Hellinger, I found very, very interesting. And as I knew him, I kind of signed up for his workshop, and I got a place in his inner circle of about 20 people, who also then have been chosen for representatives.
Mhm.
And I had no clue what's going to happen. But from the first minute, actually, I was deeply, deeply impressed. Also, especially because Bert already there has started to work with illness and symptoms. And the idea that the illness kind of is the expression of something excluded that belongs to the system was on one side for me completely new, and on the other side it made so much sense immediately.
Mm.
And the main learning experience for me in that workshop has been that you cannot reduce illness to a personal phenomenon.
Right.
This was really, really the deep, deep, deep understanding. And from that moment on, in a way, I saw my patients not anymore as individuals. I started to see the families,
As part of a bigger system. Yeah.
the bigger system, no? And I had a very interesting experience because when I got home after these 3 afternoons with Bert in the workshop in that time in Garmisch-Partenkirchen, the next day, the next Monday, I saw a client, and his girlfriend kind of left him, and she disappeared with another lover to Greece, emigrating to Greece. And he was actually suicidal. And he came to my practice because he was really desperate. And I did my homeopathy thing, and he looked at the globally in that time, and he looked at these pills, and he said, "And do you think this is going to help me now?" And I got like, "Oh my God, no, I don't think so,"
Mhm.
to be honest.
Yeah.
And then he said, "Well, what can we do? We have to do something." And then I said, "Well, we can do an experiment. No? We can do a constellation."
Mhm.
And in that constellation, it appeared. So, I mean, he asked me, "When can we do this, and what do we need?" And I said, "We need a few people, and we can do it tonight when I finished." And in that constellation, we learned, or yeah, both of us in a way learned that there was a connection. First of all, for the big insight for him was that he was not suicidal because the girlfriend left. The girlfriend left because he was suicidal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Opposite round. And I knew that his mother uh, emigrated to actually to Italy once, left him alone and the family. Well, alone, left the father alone and the children when he was about 13, 14 years old.
Mhm.
But what I didn't know in that time was that the mother killed herself in
Oh,
Italy.
wow. Right. Mm.
So it was just like everything was crystal clear in a
Mhm.
way. You know? And yeah, so after this experience, this was kind of driven still out of the energy of this workshop with Bert Hellinger. And I didn't think of integrating that into my work. Um, but more and more, I started to understand how valuable this can be, especially with patients where you have the feeling the homeopathic remedy is right. Why is it not really coming to a resolution?
Right.
And yeah, so I started after a year or so, I started to regularly invite patients out of my practice um, to constellation workshops
Mhm.
and to see what's maybe blocking. No?
Mhm. Mhm. Did you do craniosacral work as well?
This is another very interesting story because I did well, I did a lot of osteopathy in my training in a naturopath school, but I only did actually one craniosacral workshop where we learned to sense the rhythm,
Right.
and this was right in the beginning of the naturopath school, and I was so amazed that my idea was after when I finished my naturopath school, this will be the first thing I will learn.
Mhm.
No, but 3 years passed by, and so it kind of got more into the background.
Right. Right.
And but then I had an experience because I was invited to Madrid for a workshop, and in I demonstrated kind of constellation work, and in one break very well-known craniosacral therapist came to me in the break asking me, "Do you actually know what you're doing?" I said, "Well, depends on what you mean." And he said, "No, you're following the craniosacral rhythm."
Yeah.
I was not aware of while the way you pace in your work. And he also said, something, he said, it's pretty interesting because your personal craniosacral rhythm, I mean, he could notice it from the distance, no? Kind of adapts very fast to the representatives,
Uh-huh.
to the client. So you can switch there pretty fast. And in that way, I understood that the craniosacral rhythm or the adjustment of the craniosacral rhythms with the client in a way helped me to my inner perception of
Mhm.
how the constellation is landing in the body of
Right.
the client and where are and it helps me to understand a little bit where are the spots you need to work with, no?
Mhm. Very
Because
interesting, because I've always felt that craniosacral therapy was kind of like working on the individual body in the same way as we work on the system, so it's kind of doing that to allow the body to find its
yeah,
own healing
yeah,
rhythm. And then in the
yeah, yeah,
constellations, we're doing that with the
yeah.
system as a whole. So it feels very complementary somehow, as does homeopathy, of course. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, and the interesting thing from me, of course, was I have forgotten it totally.
Uh-huh.
But through this guy, my focus went there again and again, and yeah, by this I kind of started to give it to give it much more attention.
Mm. So
Yeah.
when did your book come out? Was that early on, or when was the time when it was published?
Well, no, I think I published it in Germany now about 12 years ago.
Hmm.
Um, no, must be longer, 2008,
Hmm.
14 years ago. Yeah, I published it in Germany. And the thing was, I had a feeling, the thing was, um, I mean, one thing I would like to share now, this is because this has always also been very intriguing for me. So, as I mentioned, I invited the clients, my clients, to do a constellation workshops, and some of them have been very enthusiastic. They said, "Of course, I do this, no problem." And they sat next to me, the chair. We did the constellation. It was an emotional process, no, but kind of 2 weeks later, they called me saying, "This was a great experience, but to be honest, on a symptom level, nothing really has
Still the
changed."
same, right?
And there have been other clients who said, well, I might have a look, and they were pretty shy, and they have just maybe been just observing or being representatives. And I remember them calling me every now and then saying, okay, I wanted to inscribe for a workshop now, but I do not, because it's really interesting. But to be honest, my symptom is already gone.
Right. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so that taking that kind of seriously, you know, for me, very much in the beginning already, the work was not about the constellation. No?
Right.
It
Right.
was about an inner change of perspective,
Mm-hmm.
something's coming into awareness,
Mm-hmm.
or the change of a relationship, or whatever. No.
Mm. I mean, I think it's complicated, isn't it? Because some people, this is my sense, really need their illness. I remember there's a healer in England called Matthew Manning. I don't know if he's still working, and he said he worked with people with cancer, and he would put his hands on, and the cancer would totally disappear, and then 2 years later they'd get it somewhere else, you know.
Yeah.
And he said he then turned it to interviewing the whole family so he could see what role the illness played in the family as a whole. And it's complicated, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, I today I kind of would discern between symptoms
Mm-hmm.
and kind of, yeah, I mean, life-threatening is a big word, but also severe illnesses,
Right.
because symptoms, in a way, you can see they balance closeness and distance in relationships, no?
Oh, that's interesting. Right.
And life-threatening illnesses or severe illnesses, they really balance the I would say the whole family of origin,
Right.
sometimes even on various generations in the same time now.
Mm. So, how did you get that title? Is that linked to the serious illnesses?
Yeah, it's definitely linked to the serious illnesses. Um, um, because I also worked a lot with clients suffering from severe illnesses. And also often in the constellations, we saw, okay, we could have created a new kind of balance so that the representative of the illness could kind of withdraw,
Right.
move out, or go into a standby mode, or in something like that. No? But with the clients, as I had them in my homeopathic practice, no, they came back and they told me, okay, maybe it was better for a week or so after the constellation, and then the illness came back again.
Right. Right.
So I wondered, what was actually missing? No?
Mm.
Would it have been necessary to move back further back in the family line? No? Because of course there's always something in the former generation, in the
Yeah.
earlier
Of course.
generation
Mm.
happening, no? Or is it related to an incomplete integration process of the client?
Huh. And
And
why would that be so? Why would they have trouble
um,
integrating it?
well, and what I kind of saw is that um, in the aspect of the symptom or in the aspect of the illness, because I'm calling it that way because the representative for the illness or so for me is just another aspect of the client. It's
Yeah.
kind of a representative of the client also,
Yeah.
but kind of informed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe not really good English in the moment, but it's kind of it's an entity of the client, no?
Okay.
Connected to the symptoms.
Right.
And I realized that usually most clients are in constellation workshops are adults,
Mm-hmm.
but as soon as it gets to the trauma work, as soon as it gets to the point of where some healing is needed, very often this is connected to an unfulfilled childish longing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so those clients who kind of had a relief after the constellation, most probably the adult understood something. They got more space. They could there has been kind of a relief, but then unconsciously the inner child comes up again, understanding if I now let go my symptoms, if I can let go my symptoms, I also need to let go my unfulfilled childish longing.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah. Because I sometimes link it to the reaching out movement.
Yeah,
The
exactly,
reaching out
exactly,
movement. Yeah.
exactly.
So that it's
And
connected.
yeah, and in that way, the title of the book came also out of this dynamic, out of the readiness of children,
Mm-hmm.
um, on one side, giving up their life
Mm-hmm.
for the parents, or basically maybe not for the parents, but maybe um, the, the 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 longing to feel close to them is even stronger than the longing to survive or to live, no?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is also confirmed in bonding
Yeah.
theory, no?
I mean, it's a kind of
Uh,
complete devotion, isn't it? Really.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
So the title of the book is kind of related to that
Mm-hmm.
to that movement, no?
And it's in so many languages now. It's in Spanish, isn't it? What other languages is it in?
Oh my God, I need to count because
Okay.
it's it's about 14 languages.
Wow.
It's
Right.
really
Yeah.
amazing, yeah. And just 2 weeks ago, I signed a contract to Arab and for Arab language.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. And
And
I know it's in Romania now, isn't it? Because
in
I
Romania,
love
it's in
it.
Romania, it's coming in Slovakia, it's
Yeah.
coming in Bulgaria, it's out in Spanish, Portuguese, Dutch,
Wow.
Turkish, Russian, Chinese, Estonian, Latvian, Croatian,
Sure. And
and
is
so
that a
and
reflection
some
of
more.
your travels? Like, have you been to all those countries?
Yes, I have been to
Wow.
all those countries. I've worked in more than 50 countries so far.
Goodness me. Yeah. And you
And
don't get tired of traveling? You don't mind traveling?
oh, I don't get,
You like it? Yeah.
and well, unfortunately, some to my partner, I don't get tired
Right.
of traveling. No, I really like the intercultural and international context,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm so yeah, I'm so interested in how we as human beings, no, the whole community, the world community, is living this life. No,
Yeah, yeah, and it is fascinating being in different cultures, isn't it? I know you've worked
definitely.
in Kuwait as have I, and I'm really fascinated by the differences,
Yeah,
and some things are so much better than they are in Britain, and other things I think, oh gosh, So it's an education, I suppose that's the word.
it's an education. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely an
yeah.
education, and it's opening the personal frame.
Mm, mm.
I think this is very important for us as facilitators
Yeah,
or
yeah.
therapists. To be open to any movement that wants to unfold, no?
Mm, mm. Do you know,
Without
are there any countries in the world where we haven't got constellations now?
um I don't know. I mean, I'm just again and again surprised. The feeling is I'm I mean maybe some African countries are
Hmm.
still
Hmm.
are
And you
still,
basically respond to invitation, do you? Is that how it works? You wait for somebody to invite you and then you go along?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
only like this.
Yeah. And is it mostly workshops or do you do quite a few, like being the guest trainer like you do with me? Do you do that as well quite a bit?
Well, where there are trainings, yes, of course,
Yeah.
and or offered, I'm happy to be a guest trainer. But usually, as it's also so many, I cannot be in all those trainings. So
No.
very often it's an open workshop also.
Right. Okay.
And I'm still passionate about traveling to new countries, and like now the Arab countries are coming up, or countries where constellation work is not yet
Yeah.
so widely spread,
Yeah.
and then it's easier to start with workshops now.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
really.
you haven't ever had thoughts of retiring or doing something else or no, like me, I feel very similar. Like, oh, I just love what I do. So
Yeah.
who would want to stop that? Huh? Yeah, yeah, that's great. So
No.
let's just talk a little bit more about the way you work. So I was talking before we started recording. I was talking to you about the way you kind of sometimes get the representatives to stop and not move, and then you get the symptom to find its place. You ask the symptom to come in, and you don't want the representatives to move. You want the symptom to find where it belongs.
Hmm. Well, I mean, this has different. You see, for me, a constellation today is, in a way, an answer to a question.
Mm-hmm.
It's providing so much information. And so the main reason why I do that is to slow down in
Uh-huh.
order to really get the significant information for the client.
Right, right, okay.
And the more I understood how, let's say, how family systems work and move, the more I have been able to start playing also with the constellation.
Mm-hmm.
Means bringing the symptom in, seeing what's different, or sometimes also starting with the symptoms and the family seeing the symptom can be is very important for many people. Then
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting to kind of take the representative of the symptoms out to see how would this family look like if the client would not have this symptom. And these are basically all steps to understand um, how the client is functioning, or how the family system of the client is
Right,
functioning,
right.
and what the purpose of the symptom or the illness is,
Yeah, yeah.
maybe individually or maybe for the whole system.
Mm-hmm. What it
And
serves.
then, because then it's about then the question is, okay, if I understood that this is kind of the balance that is achieved by 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 being sick, no? I mean, maybe there's another way to achieve the same balance or a similar balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can
Without,
never really tell where it's going, can you? Because I do remember working once with a couple who were very angry with each other, and I did a constellation with her. And in the constellation, she made some really good contact with her mother for the first time. Well,
hmm,
then she got motor neuron disease after. And I was like, this is so strange because she was really peaceful then. There's no more anger or anything else. And she almost embraced death.
hmm.
So I just thought these things are way beyond me. Who knows what's going to happen when you do a constellation? You just don't know, do you?
Exactly, exactly. This is what I always say. No? This
Yeah.
is one of the very important things for me to tell also in the trainings, no? That we basically, as facilitators, we have no clue what we're doing.
No.
I mean,
But it's
this is
very refreshing
very
to say I
encouraging
don't
for
know.
the client, for the participants now. But um, no, but life is so much more complex,
Yeah.
and our task as facilitators is to provide the time and space so that the self-healing can happen,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that the movement that really wants to unfold is happening.
Yeah.
and not what our idea is of how it should be.
To hold it loosely, really, yes, and then just create more
Yeah,
space, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what do you think about, I remember in the early days, Bert saying that an illness often represents an excluded person. Have you experienced that?
Yes, but I would look today. I would look. Today I would come from a different place when I look at the process like that, no?
Mm-hmm.
Because today I would see the illness as an invitation to change.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, often then an illness indicates to something that is excluded or has been excluded.
Right, right.
This can be a person, but it can also be an emotion.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Or a way
No?
of living or something like that.
Anything, but it's clearly an expression of something that is that got excluded,
Right.
either personal or from the system, maybe sometimes even throughout 3 or 4 generations. No?
Mm.
And this kind of fits perfectly with the concept of trauma, no?
Yeah.
Because trauma actually means exclusion.
Right.
Trauma basically means there's too much information for me to digest in that moment. No?
Mm-hmm.
I get into a state of overwhelmment, of being overwhelmed.
Mm.
In order to survive this state of overwhelmment, the trauma reaction is kind of a protection. No?
Mm-hmm.
We also can say we dissociate, we disconnect from the society, we disconnect from what is around us. No?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes
But
a lot
in
of
that
sense.
way, we kind of close a curtain
Mm.
because then there's less we have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
We manage, no? But in the same time, we exclude a lot. No?
Yeah.
And then the healing movement is actually the opposite movement. No?
Mm-hmm.
It's about opening up again and including what has been excluded. No?
Embracing it, really, isn't it? Yeah.
Embracing it. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's
Right.
a nice image. I like that image. Yeah.
And
It's a survival mechanism, isn't it, to have to
exactly.
close the door for a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a survival mechanism. And in that way, you also in constellations, you do not see something new. It has always been there. You just couldn't see it because you have been excluding it.
You had that closed like that. Yeah.
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 And I see an illness or a symptom, the invitation to open up. No?
Mm. Mm.
And you, of course, in the beginning we thought, okay, connected to an excluded person, it is not wrong. No? It's just far more complex.
It's a simplified way of looking at it, I guess, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it is,
Yeah.
of course, but
Yeah, and it was the beginning. I mean, it
much
was
more
the
than that.
start. It
Yeah. Yeah.
was the start, and
Yeah.
telling a really, it's amazing how he saw it. No?
Yeah. Yeah.
Very clearly that he saw it.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
understood it,
Mm.
and he opened up a completely new field. Right?
Mm.
No?
Mm. So let's just return to training a minute. Do you offer your own trainings? I know you've got the learning circle that you run, but are you doing any trainings yourself?
Well, yeah. In Germany here, I offer kind of basic training in constellation work.
Mm-hmm.
And the learning circle for me is kind of mainly a place where I experience myself, like all the other facilitator, as someone to learn also from the others.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mainly for people who really feel dedicated to the work
Mm-hmm.
and bring some already some kind of experience. And I want to offer a safe place for facilitators also to look at their personal things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of yeah, it's more a learning and healing and growing field, growing together for a community. So in that way, this is not really a training.
That's for the more experienced facilitators and
Yeah, it's also a bit from our experience. I mean, there are some exceptions if people bring a lot of knowledge from or a lot of experience as they have worked as therapists for a
yeah.
long time and they are also new to constellation work. But I mean, we're all fishing in the same pond. Basically, it's
Sure.
always about the same.
Sure.
We just use different tools
Mm.
to understand. so they are also happily included
Mm.
because they also bring something new, no?
Yeah,
Maybe through
yeah,
the constellation facilitators, no?
yeah. And I guess that all stopped during the time of COVID. I know I couldn't get there because of COVID. So you've restarted it now, haven't you?
Yes, I was well. I had to cancel a few.
Hmm.
I didn't, but I didn't cancel too much actually.
Right, right. So you didn't suffer too much from the COVID stuff.
No,
Did
no.
you do any online? Did you do any online courses?
I'm I'm not such an online person because
No.
for me, in a way, the body of the client leads the constellation. This is how I work,
Mm.
and when I work with Zoom, I mean, everything's possible. It's very clear. Everything's possible, but you need to completely reattune yourself because it's hard to get the craniosacral rhythm
Yeah.
through Zoom. It's much more difficult for me, I feel. I mean, I think it could be trained,
Hmm.
especially but one problem I see also with when you work with Zoom, especially in a group setting, because scientists also found out that the the, uh, the, the the confrontation of many faces
Hmm.
on one screen has a has an has in a way has a traumatizing aspect.
Oh,
Has
really?
has
Oh,
an has an
that's new.
or has let's do not use the word traumatizing, has an overwhelming aspect
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
because when we look at each other's like up front,
Hmm.
this kind of is a perpetrator
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah.
And it's easy to deal with one person or with two or three, but when you have 20 or
Mm.
so, it's at least I feel it also like that. I'm very exhausted after that,
Mm.
much more than in a group setting. No?
Yeah, I mean, I've
Well,
had that feedback. I
right.
know on my last training, I had 5 modules online, and I was ready to give it up. And then we had a technical guy on the training. He said, no, 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 don't give it up. And I have to say, I was dead against it, but I have to say, I did have some very pleasant surprises, about
Definitely.
what's possible
Definitely.
and how the field can operate online.
Definitely.
But once we got back together in person, then I realized how much we were missing, So, and I think everybody
Yeah,
did.
yeah, yeah.
You were,
Oh,
you were
I
lucky.
really feel privileged, and it's in the luxury. I mean, traveling has become much more effort because so I usually drove to Spain then by car.
Yeah, I remember you saying
And
it. Loads of miles.
I took more time, but this was also nice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've thought about that, about going by train to Romania rather than flying.
Yeah,
It would
yeah.
take 3 days or something, So it would have to be a holiday. You kind
Yes,
of have to,
exactly.
yeah. And do you
Exactly.
get chance for holidays and stuff? What do you do outside of your work?
Um, to be honest, not much.
Not much. Mm.
Not much. I try to go hiking,
Hmm.
and I also feel privileged to really living in the countryside. I mean, you have
Yeah,
been in
you
this
got a
place.
lovely spot.
So
Yeah,
I go in the garden. I know I need the guarantee that when I go out, step out of the house, that there is nobody. This is
yeah,
kind of what my nervous system needs
yeah.
to kind of calm down, and then I can be present for the people in the
Yeah,
groups.
yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds
How I,
lovely. You've got a lovely environment there, haven't you, where you can do that.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't have
Yeah.
to worry about other people.
So nature is really a big resource.
It's a very nourishing thing, isn't
Yeah.
it, to
Yeah.
constellation work? Yeah. So, any future plans, or are you just going to carry on responding to the people asking you to come along?
Um, Well, yeah, I carry on responding, trying to be in good contact with myself
Hmm.
to where is kind of a nourishing field to go.
Hmm.
I'm really looking forward to coming to England again to work
Yeah, me
with you,
too.
Barbara.
Yeah, yeah,
It's really lovely.
yeah.
And I mean, I have another big project, which is in a way building a retreat center.
Oh, I remember you talking about that. How's that going?
Well, step by step, slow.
Slow.
It's like a big life constellation in a way
Uh-huh.
with me.
Yeah. And are you doing that with others? There's a group of
I'm
you,
trying
is
to
it?
hold, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds
We have a
wonderful.
little team. We have a little team,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we want to integrate um, more health aspects because I'm more and more interested in also healthy economy and
Uh-huh.
healthy politics, sustainability. I think
Mhm.
need to we need to come to a new level there.
Wow. So it's going to be wider than constellations. It's going to be much
Yes.
more holistic. Yeah, that sounds really exciting. Yeah. Well, I wish you well with that.
Thank
So
you.
just for the viewers' benefit, you're coming to England at the January, isn't it? 24th and 25th in Bristol.
Yeah, I'm looking
So
forward to.
look forward to that, and then my training before that. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful.
Anything else you want to add?
Um, Anything else to add? Well, maybe I think one of the most important things for me that has been shifted in terms of my work in the last years is that in the beginning, and in a way this was has also has been in the time when I wrote the book, and it's still accurate, it's still important. But in that time, I would say I came from a place where I asked myself, how can I support the client to survive the family of origin?
Uh-huh. Right.
And today, I actually come from a completely different place when I work, because today I would say my question is, how can I support the client to find an adequate answer or response to his biography or her biography,
Mhm.
the family system, to the history of a family, so that the whole system maybe can come to a new layer of consciousness.
Mhm.
So this is much more global, it's much more holistic. And of course, sometimes first a client need to step out to have the distance to then come to that question.
Right.
Huh?
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's not very sustainable in a way to help clients survive the family of origin,
Right. Right.
um, while all the others suffer, no? Maybe.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes it is like this, but I really understood that resolving entanglement means to open the heart
Yeah.
for everybody who belongs. And
Yeah.
of course, ultimately, we all belong. So this is a really a huge movement of expansion
Mm.
and to open the heart for everything that has happened
Yeah. It's
and
embracing rather than separating.
providing providing that space um, and time. So as we said already before, that the self-healing can take place.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds wonderful.
And this is a completely different place from where I come when I work with a client.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, well, it'll be interesting to see that in process. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I, me too. I hope so that, but I think it's getting more and more often. It's kind of visible. You can
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Mm,
Okay. Great. All
mm.
right. Well, I look forward to seeing you in January, and thank you
Yeah,
very much for
me
that,
too.
Stefan.
I'm really looking forward to. As you asked me before, I'm still learning. I'm still passionate,
We all are. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I still have the feeling that there's so much more to explore.
Yeah. And that's a lovely attitude to have, isn't it? Because I
Yeah,
think once we get to the place where we think we know it all, it's time to stop.
exactly. Exactly. A little bit earlier, even.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, Stefan. Thanks very much for that then.
Thank
Right.
you very much, Barbara. I'm really
Bye.
looking forward to. Bye
Yeah.
bye.
See you soon.
Yeah,
Now,
bye.
I have to close this off.